Well guys, how's it going? So we are dealing with '05 Chevy Colorado, and I am in the process of putting an aftermarket radio in. Now, I have seen a lot of people in the YouTube world do this very same thing, except I don't like how they do it. So I'm going to show you guys how to properly wire a harness. And that ain't using no butt connectors. That's using solder and heat shrink. As you can see, I already got my heat shrink on there. Don't forget to put your heat shrink on there, because if you forget, then you've got to cut the wires and put it back on. So as far as wiring this goes, and I'm using the Metro GM11 steering wheel control. The reason I am using this is because, one, it provides an accessory power, and it retains the retained accessory power. Otherwise, you've got to run a wire to the ignition switch and all that fun stuff. What it also does is it retains your chime. It will also retain steering wheel controls, balance and fade. If you do a double din where you need a parking brake, reverse, or speed sense, this module will do that. I'm using this mainly just so I don't have a bunch of codes popping up for the radio, and I don't have to really mess with hunting down wires that I need to give me powers and grounds and all that. So it just makes it a lot easier as far as install goes. And as far as soldering, what I like to do is I like to twist my wires and just come in here and put a little solder on them. Just like that. And as far as colors go, a lot of the colors are pretty well explanatory, I guess you would say. When it comes to aftermarket radios, you know, like your purples, or for your right rear speaker, shrink it and you'll have to start over. But and as far as heat shrinking, what I like to do is I like to use the blue part of the flame, because I find that there's less chance of it catching fire. And it's a little quicker. But anyways, I will continue to do this and cut you back on when I'm ready for the next step. Now for the wires that I do not use in this application, what I do is I cut off any exposed copper and I individually heat shrink each wire, and then when I'm done with that, I heat shrink the bundle. Now when I go to electric tape this, you'll just see how much cleaner this looks compared to a bunch of butt connectors. And you won't have to worry about intermittent issues with your radio losing power or one of your speakers not working. This is the sure and right way to wire anything automotive. This is an '05 Colorado. This process is very similar on the '04 to 2012 Colorados. And what you're gonna do is simply remove this black trim here. Now, you can do several things here. But first, you gotta find a good place to pry on it. And usually, if you just give it a good tug, she'll come right out. Now, you want to be careful on these vents. Well, this is going to be a little more of a challenge than I thought it was. Only because this is my vehicle, I will use a key as a pry tool here. And I'm knocking things over. Just enough to get it to start. Just like so. And you want to be careful because as these things get older, they are more prone to cracking. Especially the ducts here. And you'll have, let me see if I can turn this around here. You'll have two connectors. Make sure my head ain't in the way here. And if you have four-wheel drive, you'll want to disconnect this. If you're two-wheel drive, then you won't have this, as far as I know. And this is where I edit this part out. Man, she's in there good. But what you want to do is you want to push down on the tab and wiggle it, there you go, just like so. And then you'll have another one here. This appears to already have been broken, so we're just going to remove that like that, and that will come out just like so. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you will have 3 7 mils. Yep, they are 7 mils. 7 millimeter. And just throw them on the ground. You don't need them. Now, this does have anti-theft. I am not sure if there's a code that you can retrieve out of it. I'm not really sure about any of that, unfortunately. I don't deal with GM radios very often. And you're just gonna gently pull it out and release your harness. There's your antenna wire, and then your big connector right here. There's just one connector there. This is for aftermarket or factory equipped sound systems, amplifiers, whatnot. And then what you're gonna do is just plug this son of a gun in. And you want to be careful you don't bend any tabs or nothing like that. Timing up. So before we get crazy, we're gonna go ahead and turn the key on. Turn the blower down. And push the power button. And there you go. Now I don't have the antenna hooked up. I don't have an adapter readily available, but it's super easy to get this radio in and out, so I will go and get one later on. And then open the door, close the door. Okay, so I got it figured out. And so what it was I had to push the button on here, and that seemed to do something. I wasn't sure if that did it, so I turned the key off, I opened the door, closed the door, that way everything was shut down. I unplugged the module and I plugged it back in. Now I've got my chime, my radio turns on, turn the key off, and shut the door and it shuts off. Well, you can't even see the radio. Alright, well let's put it in a position where you can see the radio. So, stick the module there, stick that up there. Alright, let's try this again. Okay. Key in the ignition. Ignition on. Radio on. You hear my chime is working. Turn the key off. I'm going to turn my headlights on. There's my headlight warning. And we're good to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mount it all back. I have not used the Metra module, and I didn't really read the instructions. There are some instructions to follow, especially if you're using it for steering wheel control. It tells you to do certain items to ensure that your steering wheel control works. I do not have steering wheel controls. I am just using the module, so I have the proper powers and grounds and an actual switched power, because the factory GM radios actually use the CAN network to turn the radio on. They always have constant power to them. It's the PCM or BCM body control module that sends a data log or a data packet to the radio to actually turn the radio off. So when you swap the factory radio for an aftermarket radio and you do not use that module, you'll hook everything up and the radio won't even turn on. You can bypass that easily by taking ignition power from the switch and running it to the radio. But you still will not have your warning chimes or anything like that. Say your low fuel light comes on, or your temperature gauge is reading too high. Well, if you don't have that module, you'll never get those warning chimes. It's not a big deal to me, but I'd rather have it than not have it. And I'm in a position where I will be fixing that. Now this is a Bluetooth radio. It's a dual. I bought it at Walmart for $20 with 2 speakers. I'm not here to spend a whole lot of money. I don't really care. I just want something mainly with Bluetooth, and it came with 2 speakers, so that was a bonus. As far as hooking up Bluetooth, well, I'm about to find out how that works. So it does work. We are paired. And you might be able to hear that on the speakers. So it works. We're good. Now we're going to shut everything off, open the door. Goodbye.